Kaden, I'm home, Ava Sterling announced as she opened the front door, puckering her lips. I require a welcome home kiss. I expertly wrapped an arm around her slim waist and gave her one. You know, Ava, you don't have to work this hard. You have a team for a reason. What's the point of hiring all those people if you're going to do everything yourself? I can't just be a trophy wife, she teased. The company's just getting into the black. It's my baby. I have to give it some personal attention, you know? I flicked her nose affectionately. All right, you. Go wash up. Dinner's ready. I'll have Maria bring out the food. Oh, Ava leaned in and whispered in my ear. Dinner sounds great. A girl's got to build up her energy for some post-dinner cardio. And don't think you're getting out of it tonight, Kaden. Don't get too cocky, I shot back with a grin. You're always the first one begging for mercy. My name is Kaden Hayes. I'm the sole heir to Hayes Industries, a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Ava Sterling is my childhood sweetheart. Our family estates are in the same exclusive gated community just outside of New York City. Our families have been friends for generations, and now they're deeply integrated business allies. Ever since we were in diapers, Ava was the one chasing me around the yard. We went to the same preschool, the same private elementary and high schools, and even the same university. Eventually, I managed to turn my childhood sweetheart into Mrs. Hayes. I've always felt like my life has been incredibly smooth sailing, like I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth. Until tonight, after dinner and showers, Ava was curled up against my chest, tickling my neck with the ends of her hair. A fire was starting to build in me. I was just about to lean down and kiss her soft, red lips when the phone she'd left on the nightstand buzzed, ruining the mood. She huffed, her fingers still resting on my shoulder as she reached over and rejected the call. Her voice was a kittenish growl of annoyance. It's definitely someone from the office. Can't they let a person have 5 minutes of peace after hours? I chuckled and squeezed her waist. Just as I was about to resume, the phone chimed 4 or 5 times in quick succession, a barrage of text notifications, as if demanding a response. The sound grated on my nerves. I dropped my hands, my interest now mostly gone. You should probably check that, I said, nodding toward the phone. What if it's an emergency? If something's wrong with that new project, you don't want delays. Ava pouted, the desire in her eyes dimming slightly. She pushed herself up, grabbed the phone, and swiped the screen open. After a quick glance, she tossed it back on the nightstand and snuggled back into my arms, though her expression had soured. Ugh, seriously? It's that new intern. Has zero sense of professional boundaries. What intern? I frowned, my hand finding its way back to her back, tracing slow circles. What could be so urgent that they blow up your phone after a rejected call? She looked up at me, a hint of the earlier passion still in her eyes, and handed me the phone with a smirk. Here, see for yourself. The screen was lit up, showing a message thread with the contact name Shawn Miller, intern. I scrolled through the messages, the words jumping out at me. Miss Sterling, when I dropped off those files the other day, I noticed you seemed a little stressed. I figured you spend a lot of time sitting at your desk, so I had a friend of mine send over a box of these imported Japanese muscle relief patches. I hear they're amazing for lower back strain. I was working late tonight, and the package just arrived. I saw you'd already left, so I put it on the little shelf right outside your office door. Don't forget to grab it in the morning. Oh, and be careful not to leave them on for too long. The instructions are in Japanese, but I Googled it, and it says you should take them off after about 4 hours to let your skin breathe. Ms. Sterling, please don't overwork yourself. Your health is the most important thing. You have to take care of yourself. A cold smile crept across my face as I read the stream of unsolicited concern. Ava's fingers were drawing circles on my chest. Kaden, why are you smiling like that? It's a little creepy. He's just a kid, fresh out of college. He's only been with us for 2 weeks. Probably just trying to suck up to the boss, you know? I tossed the phone back and rolled over, pulling her into my arms and resting my chin on the top of her head. Ava, don't you see this as a test? My gut tells me this kid won a lot more than just a good impression on his boss. Oh, no way. Kaden, aren't you overthinking this? Am I? Put yourself in my shoes, Ava. What if a female intern started texting me late at night, asking about my health and telling me to take care of myself? What would you think? I didn't argue with her. I just asked a simple, practical question. Seriously, I'd think she was a conniving little snake trying to sleep her way to the top. The mere thought of it made Ava's blood boil. After her outburst, she caught herself, falling silent for a moment. Oh my God, Kaden, you're right. I'm sorry when you put it like that. I let out a short, sharp laugh. Never underestimate the schemes of people like that. Mark my words, his next move will be to manufacture accidental run-ins and start giving you little gifts. Some people are always looking for a shortcut to the top, especially when my Ava is so beautiful. I'll have HR fire him tomorrow. He's just an intern, a toad wanting to marry a princess. You're the only one I love. As she said it, Ava snuggled deeper into my embrace, hooking a leg over mine. So tell me, I asked, what's this intern's work like? What does he look like? Ava frowned in concentration. How would I remember the face of some entry-level intern? He just runs errands. My general impression is that he's kind of pretty boy, a bit effeminate. Then, something clicked for her. Oh, right. You know those cringy TikTok pretty boys that do those weird, thirsty dances. He has that kind of vibe. I physically cringed as a particularly awful TikTok audio track started playing in my head. Ugh, I can't stand guys like that. They're more dramatic than most women. Ava was still muttering. I'll drive you to work myself tomorrow, I said, and I'm assigning a female bodyguard to you. For your protection. I wasn't taking any chances. Okay, my Kaden is the best. Enough about unpleasant things. I'm ready to go 300 rounds with you. Oh, you're on. The next morning, I drove Ava to her company's building. The moment I parked, she leaned over and planted a quick kiss on my cheek, then grabbed my hand to lead me upstairs. Employees in the hallway greeted us respectfully. As soon as she entered her office and dropped her purse, Ava's assistant called her into a conference room. Before she left, she poured me a glass of water and gave me a wink. I gotta handle something, Kaden. Be back in a flash. You can borrow my throne for a bit. I smiled and settled into the plush leather chair behind her massive desk. On the corner of the desk was a framed photo of us from our ski trip in Switzerland last year. Ava was bundled in a pink down jacket, her eyes crinkling with a joyful smile. I was admiring it when I heard footsteps at the door. I looked up to see a young man who could only be described as delicate standing in the doorway. He was holding a stack of files in one arm and a breakfast bag in the other. His white shirt was impeccably ironed, his hair perfectly coiffed. But the second his eyes landed on me, they hardened. Who are you? He frowned, his tone laced with the wariness of someone whose territory had been invaded. This is Miss Sterling's office. What gives you the right to sit in her chair? I leaned back, spinning lazily in the chair. You don't know who I am? I'm her husband. I spoke slowly, deliberately. The better question is, who are you, barging into your boss's office without knocking and then daring to question me? What are you exactly? Shawn Miller scoffed as if I'd told a hilarious joke. He dropped the files on a nearby coffee table and tossed the breakfast bag beside them. Well, looks like I've run into a fellow professional. You trying to land the sugar mama gig too? I almost laughed out loud. He took 2 steps closer, his voice dripping with undisguised provocation. But you should know, landing a rich woman takes skill and the right assets. He looked me up and down. You think you're better looking than me? Younger than me? I'm warning you, don't compete with me. Miss Sterling will be mine, sooner or later. If you don't back off, I'll make sure you end up with nothing. Your reputation ruined. I truly couldn't hold it in. A laugh burst out of me. The sheer absurdity of it all was just too much. Did this kid get his life script from some trashy streaming movie where the billionaire CEO falls for the pool boy? It was like a crazy tabloid headline. President fall for divorced janitor with kids at the White House. There has to be a limit to baseless confidence. My laughter made Shawn's face turn beet red. He clenched his fists, about to say something else, when the distinct click-clack of high heels sounded from the hallway. In an instant, his entire demeanor shifted. Faster than I could blink, he snatched the cup of water from the desk and, splash, dumped the entire thing over his own head. Water dripped from his hair, soaking the front of his shirt. Then, he threw the breakfast he'd brought to the floor and stomped on it. Ah, sir, why did you throw water on me? Hey, don't step on the breakfast I bought from Miss Sterling. I watched utterly dumbfounded. Wow, this kid was wasting his time in business. He had a promising career in acting. Just then, Ava pushed the door open, her eyes immediately taking in the pathetic, drenched Shawn Miller and me, sitting calmly beside the scene of the crime. Honey, what's going on here? She raised an eyebrow, her gaze sweeping over Shawn, her tone unreadable. Hearing the word, honey, Shawn flinched, a look of disbelief flashing across his face. He quickly replaced it with an expression of defiant victimhood. Miss Sterling, it's nothing. I was just clumsy. I bent down to pick up a file and knocked over the cup on your desk, he stammered. And then I tripped and fell on the breakfast I brought for you. It had absolutely nothing to do with this gentleman. As he spoke, he snuck glances at me from the corner of his eye, adding a convincing shiver for effect, as if I had just finished torturing him. Ava just said, oh. She walked over to my side and placed a hand naturally on my shoulder, looking at him with a half-smile. I want the truth. Speak freely. You look like you've been horribly wronged. A flicker of cunning crossed Shawn's eyes. No, Miss Sterling, don't misunderstand. It's just that. I didn't realize this was your husband. I was worried he was some kind of suspicious character, and I spoke out of turn. It's all my fault. Please, don't blame him. Ava burst out laughing. She pointed a finger at him. Shawn, what on earth makes you think I was going to blame my husband? The practiced expression on Shawn's face froze, as if he couldn't process why Ava's reaction was so far from what he'd anticipated. Ava didn't waste another look on him. She picked up the desk phone and pressed the extension for security. Frank, get 2 guys up to my office. We need to escort Shawn Miller out. Now real panic set in. Shawn's face went pale. Miss Sterling, what are you doing? I was just trying to look out for you. Ava strode forward and slapped him so hard his head snapped to the side. Let me be perfectly clear. You're fired. The reason? I can smell the bullshit from a mile away, and it's giving me a headache. It was only then that the reality of the situation crashed down on Shawn. He made a move to drop to his knees, but the security guards who had just arrived grabbed him by the arms. Miss Sterling, I'm sorry. Please, give me another chance. I know I was wrong, he pleaded, his voice cracking as he struggled. Ava didn't even glance at him. She just waved a dismissive hand. The guards dragged the still-shouting intern out of the office like a sack of garbage. Finally, there was quiet. I reached out, pulling her to me. Never doubted you for a second. I murmured into her ear. Ava turned, standing on her toes to kiss the corner of my mouth. Trust is the most important thing in a marriage, Kaden. Why would I ever believe some outsider over you? But she leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. You didn't even punch him when he said he was going to take me from you. I pinched her cheek. Too many witnesses here. A black eye is temporary. That would be letting him off way too easy. A hard glint appeared in Ava's eyes, quickly replaced by a grin. That's easy enough to solve. I'll fund it. You find the people. That fly just disgusted me, and I'm very unhappy. Done. Whatever you want, I said, her smile chasing away the last of the morning's unpleasantness. That night, I sat on a sofa that had been hastily moved into the underground garage of an abandoned construction site on the edge of the city, listening to the wind howl as I waited. Boss, we brought him, one of my security guys said, bowing his head respectfully. Good. Tell accounting to give you boys a 2-month bonus. You've earned it. With a dull thud, a canvas bag was thrown onto the concrete floor. Shawn Miller tumbled out, scraping his elbow. He squinted against the harsh beam of a flashlight, cursing. Who the hell are you bastards? You dare kidnap me? I'll kill you. It's me. We just saw each other this morning, remember? When Shawn's eyes adjusted and he saw me sitting there, his bravado vanished, replaced by pure terror. You, that's right, I said, flicking a non-existent piece of dust from my pants. We meet again. The handsome and youthful master of the sugar baby arts. Where is this? Let me go. He scrambled backward, his voice a pathetic mix of bluster and fear. This is kidnapping. It's a felony. I'm calling the cops. As soon as the words left his mouth, my men started openly mocking him. Has this genius not grasped the situation yet? With a brain like that, he thought he could hook the boss's wife. He really thinks he's the main character, doesn't he? Shawn's face flushed red and white. Just as he opened his mouth to retort, I gave a slight nod. One of my men understood instantly. He strode forward, pinned Shawn's wrist to the ground, and before Shawn could react, brought a hammer down with a sickening crack. A blood-curdling scream tore through the silence of the abandoned building. Shawn curled into a ball on the floor, cold sweat and tears streaming down his face. His right index finger was already swelling grotesquely. Arg, my hand! He was trembling from the pain, his threats instantly turning to pleas. "Sir, Mr. Hayes, I was wrong. I'll never do it again. I swear. You're a bigger man than me. Please let me go." I stood up and walked over to him, looking down at his pathetic form. "You had the nerve to make a move on my wife. That's some real courage you've got there." Just then, the sound of high heels echoed on the concrete floor behind me. I turned to see Ava, dressed in a black trench coat, flanked by her own security detail. Her gaze passed over the whimpering Shawn on the ground without a second's pause. She walked straight to my side and expertly linked her arm through mine. The sight of her made Shawn react as if he'd found his last hope for salvation. He struggled to crawl forward, ignoring the scrapes on his knees. Miss Sterling, please, talk to Mr. Hayes for me. I know I was wrong. I promise I'll leave the city immediately and never show my face to you again." Ava let out a cold laugh. She bent down slightly, her eyes full of amusement. "The moment you showed your pathetic intentions toward my husband, it was over for you. Tonight, you're going to experience the true superpower of being rich." With that, she clapped her hands. A moment later, 2 more guards dragged in another large canvas bag. They threw it to the ground and kicked it open. A disheveled man with dirt on his face tumbled out, a foul-smelling sock stuffed in his mouth. When Shawn saw the man's face, his pupils shrank in horror. "Dad, how did they get you too?" The man could only make muffled sounds. When he saw Shawn's mangled hand, his eyes turned red with fury, and he struggled against the guard holding him down. Ava handed me her phone, the screen displaying a background check. "I have to admit, I was curious what gave a broken turn like you the audacity to try something with me. So, I had someone do a little digging. I never expected to find such a legendary father." Shawn opened his mouth to say something, but the guard next to him backhanded him across the face so hard he spun halfway around. "The boss and his wife didn't tell you to speak." "Shut up," the guard said coldly. Shawn immediately fell silent. I scrolled through the report, my expression growing stranger the more I read. Finally, I couldn't help but read it aloud. Shawn Miller. Father, Ken Miller. Mother, Victoria Zhou. Victoria Zhou. Former chairwoman of Zhou Enterprises over a decade ago. At its peak, the company was worth over $200 million. Quite the powerhouse in her day. "Honey, look at this part," Ava said, pointing to the next section. Ken Miller was originally a scholarship student Victoria sponsored. Later, after Victoria divorced her first husband, Ben Carter, who left with nothing, Ken Miller married into the Zhou family. A few years after Shawn was born, Victoria's parents died in a car crash. When Shawn was 10, Victoria herself died of sudden illness. The entire Zhou Enterprises fortune fell into Ken Miller's hands. A real shame he managed to squander it all in just a few years. It all clicked into place. I looked at the father and son on the floor. Well. So Dad got too old to be a gold digger and decided to have his son follow in his footsteps, teaching him how to prey on wealthy women. Shawn was so humiliated he looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him whole. He didn't dare make a sound. Ava tapped her finger on the phone screen. "Something about this feels wrong. The whole Zhou family died off way too quickly. There aren't that many coincidences in the world. There are only conspiracies." The police investigated at the time and ruled it all as accidental, but I don't buy it. I smiled and put my arm around her shoulder. I nodded towards Ken Miller. "The police can't use certain interrogation methods. But here," I signaled for a guard to remove the sock from Ken's mouth. The moment he was free, his eyes fixed on Shawn's broken finger, and he started screaming with paternal rage. "You bastard! Who the hell do you think you are? You think being rich means you can do whatever you want? I'm calling the cops." I didn't waste time arguing. I just raised an eyebrow. The guard next to him knew what to do. He picked up the hammer and brought it down on Ken Miller's hand. Another sharp crack and a scream from Ken. One of his fingers was now just as broken. Ken Miller fell silent instantly, sweat pouring down his face. I sat back down on the sofa, crossing my legs. "So tell me, what really happened to Victoria Zhou and her parents?" Ken gritted his teeth, trying to hold on to his defiance. "It was their time to go. What could I do about it? Don't think your money makes you God. I won't break." I raised an eyebrow again, saying nothing, but giving another look. The guard's hammer fell again. Crack. R. One finger, then 2, then 3. By the time the fifth finger was shattered, Ken Miller finally broke. The pain was so intense, he was on the verge of passing out. His voice trembled as he begged for mercy. I'll talk. I'll talk. Please stop. Just stop. Shawn had been cowering in a corner the whole time, watching his father's fingers get broken one by one, snot and tears covering his face, too terrified to speak. Ava shot him a look of pure disgust and spat on the ground. I signaled for the guard to stop. Leaning back on the sofa, I looked at Ken's pain-twisted face and said calmly, You see, turns out being rich does mean I can do whatever I want. Would have been easier if you just started with this. Ava sat down next to me, picked up a bottle of water, slowly opened it, then pulled out a bag of popcorn, settling in for the show. All right then, tell us your fascinating story. Ken, grimacing in pain but terrified of the hammer, began to speak. The first time I saw Victoria, saw how she was dressed, I fell in love with her money. The only problem was she was already married. To get what I wanted, I had to find a way to break up her and her husband, Ben Carter. I thought it would be hard to win her over, he said, a sick little laugh escaping him, the memory seeming to dull the pain in his hand. But that woman was so easy to fool. I played the victim card, told her I was an orphan who grew up poor, got bullied in school. She was practically in tears. Later, I faked a fall down some stairs and blamed it on Ben. She went home and had a massive fight with him. I photoshopped a few pictures of Ben with other women, told her he was cheating. She believed me without even asking him. They were divorced not long after. Ava paused with a kernel of popcorn halfway to her mouth. Wait, I have a question. With a company the size of Joe Enterprises, dividing the assets in a divorce would have been a nightmare. How did you get Ben Carter to leave with nothing? I didn't do a thing. He gave it all up himself, Ken sneered. That Ben Carter was the world's biggest simp. Victoria said she wanted to be child-free, so he went and got a vasectomy without a second thought. After they split, I would send him pictures of me and Victoria together just to rub it in. He never said a word. He just packed a bag, signed the divorce papers, and told her he just wanted to be free of her. He even wished us well. It was hilarious. He probably thought that after he left, she'd realize how good he was and come crawling back. In reality, Victoria and I celebrated for days. Ava and I exchanged a look. It was a look that said, well, now I've seen everything. If my research is correct, Ben Carter was a huge reason Joe Enterprises became so successful in the first place. He really didn't take anything? Ava asked, astonished. Was this Ben Carter guy completely brainless? Just a few old clothes, Ken said with a dismissive wave of his uninjured hand. He thought with his talent, he could easily start over. But he wasn't young anymore, and I pulled some strings behind the scenes to make sure every door was slammed in his face. Eventually, the idiot got desperate and went to find his old childhood sweetheart. Ha ha ha! The memory seemed to make Ken forget the throbbing in his hand. Years ago, to get with Victoria, Ben had rejected that girl even as she cried and begged him not to leave her. When he went back, she was married with a kid old enough for kindergarten. Then he tried looking up a girl from college he'd once saved. She used to say she'd never marry anyone but him. The second she heard he'd had a vasectomy, she was on a dating app that same day. In the end, the moron couldn't even afford rent. He finally came back to try and renegotiate the divorce settlement. I had some guys beat him up and throw him out. Last I heard, he froze to death under a bridge one winter. The abandoned garage was silent for a second, and then I burst out laughing, slapping the arm of the sofa. Holy hell, what kind of ultimate doormat was this guy? He gets cheated on, and instead of ruining them, he hands over his wife, his fortune, and his blessing. And then he expected other women to want him. That guy deserved everything he got. That's what simps get. Ava was laughing so hard tears were streaming down her face. Stop laughing. Keep talking. How did Victoria and her parents really die? Ken's expression tightened. He glanced at the hammer in the guard's hand and immediately shrunk like a scared turtle. I'll talk. I'll talk. Don't hit me. Victoria's parents. That was my doing to control Joe Enterprises. I had to get them out of the way. I found a contact overseas, hired a truck driver with terminal cancer. I gave him a pile of cash and promised to send his wife and kids abroad. The driver was a piece of work. He filled his truck with flammable materials and slammed right into their car. The fire destroyed all the evidence. As for Victoria, he swallowed hard, his eyes darting away. After she had Shawn, I started getting a slow-acting poison from overseas. I mixed it into her water every day. It metabolized too quickly to show up in a standard physical, but long-term exposure meant any severe emotional distress could trigger a heart attack. Later, when the company was failing, I started picking fights with her constantly. One day, I deliberately told her the truth about her parents' deaths. The woman just clutched her chest and collapsed. I watched her struggle until she stopped breathing before I leisurely called 911. When he finished, a chilling silence fell over the garage. The smile was long gone from my face. My eyes were ice. Ava was livid, crushing the popcorn kernels in her hand into dust. You really know how to wipe out an entire family line for their money. I met some evil people, but you're in a league of your own. Victoria sponsored you, married you, gave you a son. Didn't you feel even a shred of compassion? I never loved her. If it wasn't for her money, why would I have married an older woman like that? With money, I could have any beautiful young thing I wanted. When they all became obstacles on my path to wealth, I had no choice but to get rid of them. I looked at Ken's matter-of-fact expression with disgust and waved my hand dismissively. Ken panicked. "Mr. Hayes, please let me and Shawn go. I told you everything. What happened to the Zhou family has nothing to do with you. I'll take my son and leave the country. We'll never come back." I looked down at the pathetic man. When did I ever make you a promise? Seeing that I had no intention of letting them go, Ken scrambled over to his son. "What are you going to do? Killing someone is a capital crime. You murdered 4 people and got away with it. Besides, what have I done? I haven't laid a finger on either of you. And I never explicitly ordered my men to do anything, did I?" I smiled. "But I'm not unreasonable. I'll give you a chance. Tonight, one of you gets to walk out of here. You have 20 minutes to decide who. If you can't decide, you both stay." Their pleas for mercy slowly twisted into vicious accusations. "This is all your fault," Shawn shrieked, his face contorted with the hatred of a cornered animal. "If you hadn't pushed me to follow in your footsteps, I never would have pissed off Mr. Hayes." Ken spat. "You little bastard. Who was it that kept going on about how rich and beautiful Miss Sterling was, begging me to teach you how to get her? Now you're blaming me?" Ava and I sat on the sofa, watching the pathetic drama unfold. She glanced at her phone. "Gentlemen, 3 minutes have passed." That single, soft sentence shattered their last pretense of a family bond. Before Ken could curse at him again, Shawn grabbed a fist-sized chunk of broken concrete from the floor and swung it at his father's head. Thwack! A sickening thud echoed in the garage. Blood immediately began to pour from Ken's forehead. His eyes widened in disbelief. "Shawn, I'm your father. I don't have a father like you." Shawn screamed, his face spattered with his father's blood, his eyes bloodshot. "If you hadn't killed my grandparents and my mother, Zhou Enterprises never would have gone bankrupt. If you hadn't squandered our fortune, I would have been a rich kid too." He roared as he raised the concrete block and brought it down again, and again, each blow harder than the last. "You owe me all of this." The blows stunned Ken, but also ignited a primal fury. He swung his uninjured hand, landing a solid punch on Shawn's jaw. "You son of a bitch! Everything I did was for us. As long as those 2 old fossils were alive, I was nobody in that family. Your mother kept all the real power for herself. How could I take control without getting rid of her?" Shawn staggered back, his mouth filling with blood, but it only made him more frenzied. The 2 of them rolled around in the dust, screaming the most vile insults at each other, using fists, teeth, and nails. "Bullshit! You did it for yourself," Shawn yelled, his hands finding Ken's throat. "Don't think I didn't know about all the women you were seeing behind my mother's back. You spent all the company's money on them." "So what if I did?" Ken gasped for air, then suddenly lunged forward and bit down on Shawn's arm, tearing away a chunk of flesh. "You're the failure here. Weren't you the one who beat his chest and promised me, 'Dad, don't worry, I can totally handle her'?" Blood streamed down Shawn's arm, the pain making him break out in a cold sweat. But the fury in his eyes only intensified. He raised the concrete block and began smashing it down on Ken's head indiscriminately. Thwack! 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 Ken's resistance weakened. At first, he was still able to curse, but soon all he could manage were wet, gurgling sounds. He was older, with a shattered hand. He was no match for Shawn's youthful rage. Soon, He lay still on the ground like a dead dog. Shawn straddled his father's back, his eyes red, mechanically raising and lowering the concrete block until it was coated in a thick, sticky paste. Only then did he stop. Hiv. This isn't how it was supposed to go. Shawn knelt on the ground, laughing a strange, broken laugh. Blood, tears, and dirt smeared his face into a terrifying mask. They always say female bosses love younger guys, that every woman cheats. My dad pulled it off, so how did it all go so wrong for me? Ava looked down at his blood-streaked face with contempt. Your father succeeded because Victoria Zhou was hopelessly naive. She refused to believe the husband who gave up everything for her, and instead trusted an outsider who was full of crap. She stood up, towering over him. Do you think any of us who run successful businesses could afford to be that stupid? We'd end up just like her, our families destroyed, and our fortune stolen. Shawn had nothing left to say. He struggled to look up, a glimmer of pleading in his eyes. Mr. Hayes, Ms. Sterling, no matter what, I'm the one who survived. Please, just let me go. I leaned back on the sofa, swinging my leg casually. All right, I'll let you go. You can leave now. Shawn froze for a second. Then his face exploded with ecstatic joy. He painfully pushed himself up from the floor and started limping toward the garage exit. I didn't miss the flash of hatred in his eyes as he turned his back. So naive. Just as he was about to reach the sliver of light from the exit, a burly figure blocked his path. The man was holding a steel rebar, glaring at Shawn. Where do you think you're going, buddy? Shawn whipped his head around, his eyes blazing with fury. Kaden Hayes, you're going back on your word. I held up my hands in a gesture of innocence. Would I go back on my word? I said I'd let you go, and I am. He pointed a shaking finger at the man blocking the door. Then tell him to move. What's he got to do with me? I don't know him, I said, unable to suppress a smile. I turned to one of my guards. You heard me, right? I said I'd let him go. The guard nodded immediately. You? I asked another guard. He nodded too. I shrugged. See, Shawn? Everyone heard me. The man at the door grinned. I'm just a guy out for a late-night jog. I don't know anyone here. That's bullshit. You're clearly one of his men. Shawn shrieked. The man hefted the rebar. Now, don't go making false accusations. I don't know any Mr. Hayes. I just happen to know the son of the driver of the neighbor of the brother-in-law of the third cousin of a friend of Mr. Hayes who lives overseas. And I just so happened to hear a fight, saw you committing a murder, and rushed in to try and save the victim. If I accidentally use a little too much force in the process. Well, that's perfectly reasonable, isn't it? A cold sweat beaded on Shawn's forehead. They'll give you life for this. Is it worth it for a guy like Kaden Hayes? The man laughed like it was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. He pulled a piece of paper from his pocket and threw it at Shawn's face. Idiot. Read this. Shawn's hands were ice cold as he looked at the paper. It was a psychiatrist's diagnostic report. All the strength drained out of him, and he collapsed to the ground. Now you get it. Nothing serious will happen to me, the man said, his eyes glinting. But you're finished. Desperate, Shawn turned his gaze to Ava. Ms. Sterling, you see what kind of man he is. Aren't you afraid he'll do the same thing to your family one day? Ava yawned and snuggled closer to me, still trying to stir up trouble. Even now, my husband only acts this way with our enemies. I'm his darling wife. He would only ever love me and cherish me. Besides, she added, this just proves how much he cares about me. We're a power couple. A perfect match. Bullshit. You're a pair of wolves. A heartless, evil couple. This isn't fair. The big man wasn't interested in his ranting. Fair or not, you're getting what you deserve. An animal who'd kill his own father deserves nothing less. Without another word, he advanced on him. Honey, I'm getting tired of this show. Let's go home and go to bed, Ava murmured as the night grew deeper. I reached out and tweaked her nose, a fond smile on my face. Okay, let's go. Someone else will handle the cleanup. We walked out of the darkness hand in hand, surrounded by our security team. The night wind was cool, and Ava snuggled closer into my side. I took off my jacket and draped it over her shoulders, looking out at the distant city lights. Another day, another piece of trash taken out. I feel refreshed. Ava looked up and kissed my chin, her eyes crinkling into a smile. That whole family was a bunch of freaks, though. They didn't operate on human logic. You had Victoria, who trusted her conman husband over everyone else. The conman and his son who thought they could manipulate the world. And most ridiculous of all, that simp Ben Carter, who thought he was being noble. It's hilarious. A guard opened the car door for us, and I helped Ava inside. If there's anything I can't stand, it's cheats, gold diggers, and simps. That family managed to be all three. Well, it's over now. Kaden, how about we find a place for a late-night snack? And after that, I'm ready for those 300 rounds. You're all talk. Let's see if you're still saying that when you're begging me to stop. As the car pulled away from the city's edge, I didn't give the abandoned building another thought. Some people are just maggots in the dirt, always trying to crawl toward a light that doesn't belong to them. They forget that light not only provides warmth, but can also burn them to ashes. Some people hold a royal flush in their hands, but throw it away to pick up a poison apple. They forget that sweet words hide not just false affection, but also a venom that can destroy entire families. And some people mistake weakness for generosity and surrender for love, willingly feeding their hearts and fortunes to wolves. They forget that endless compromise doesn't earn gratitude, but a butcher's knife that will drag them down to hell. Epilogue sad face, I originally wasn't going to write this, but I wanted to prevent any weird fan fiction from popping up in the comments. Ava and I had 2 children. To prevent any soap opera level mix-ups or long-lost heir plots down the line, our parents insisted on DNA tests for each birth, just to be absolutely sure. Our family corporations merged, becoming an unstoppable force in the market. And as for us, we lived a long, happy, and prosperous life together until we were old and gray.